Hey guys, what's up? So just wanted to record a quick intro for the Make.com series. So this will be part 1 of the series. Just start with the basics. I recorded a way longer intro, but I know you guys have zero attention span, so I'm just gonna dive right in and I'll save the rant for the end of the video. First video, Make.com basics. Let's dive in. Alright, so we're in my computer right now and I also have the iPad here. So if there's any sort of notes or anything I want to clarify for you guys, I'll try and write it out. Keep in mind, my handwriting is not the best, but I think it will help with, just getting the point across. So yeah, first thing, Make.com basics. I think the important part here at the dashboard level is just that you can see your usage. Nothing much, to discuss here really. You want to keep an eye out, obviously, that you hit your limit, but you'll also be notified by Make whenever you do. And then, yeah, I think just the most important thing is just the scenarios tab. So this is a demo account I use, so I just have a few automations in here. But yeah, the main thing you see on the left side is basically the folders. So the folders you want to use either per department or maybe per sort of automation group you build. I really recommend you to name your automations properly, as well as make the folders right away, just so you have everything clear. And at the top you can easily filter as well for active scenarios, just to see whatever you have turned on, and inactive scenarios as well, just to see what you have turned off. So it's super easy to keep that all organized. Alright, so I'll just make a new folder here and call it demo make.com video. Save it as a new folder, and then we got our folder, and then we're gonna dive into the scenarios here. So I'm just going to click create new scenario to create a new one, and basically a scenario is one automation. So that's the way you want to think about it. And then what is one automation? It's basically a starting point, and then the consequences. That together is a single scenario, and the starting point you can kind of see as either a trigger or it's going to be on a schedule. So what's the difference? So a trigger means that something happens in some other application, which is super broad, but let's say you receive an email or someone updates your Notion database or someone fills out a form. That's a trigger, that's like an action, and that triggers the automation to run. And then the other option is a schedule, and a schedule means that every certain interval, time interval, so every day or every 10 minutes or every minute, however you set it up, the automation will run. And if that's the case, then it's usually something like looking up a value inside of a Google Sheet or on an Airtable, or maybe if you just want to remind your team of something every Thursday, send out a Slack message. That's kind of when you use the schedule. And the trigger, I just gave you some examples there. Then in terms of the start and then the consequences, so basically that's the start. That's when the automation starts, and that's when you're gonna put as the first module inside of a scenario. So module is basically one action, and then the consequences can be whatever you want to happen after that. So yeah, let me just start with maybe an example trigger, and then we can move into an example schedule flow. So let's do Google Sheets, and we can do watch new row. So this is an example of a trigger. So I'm just going to make a sheet to demo it for you. Going to call it demo sheet, and let's say name and websites and phone number. So let's say this is a Google Sheet that whenever someone enters your store or enters the information somewhere, you just update this sheet. Obviously that's also something you can automate, but let's keep that as an example. And then we just want, whenever a new row is added, so whenever a new row is filled out, we want it to trigger the automation. So let's see. We're going to go back to Make, and then in the Watch New Rows module, we're going to select our spreadsheet, type in demo sheet, and then it will load for a little bit, and then we'll try and pull up the sheet names, and then it will also show us in a bit the column names. So now the trigger's installed. Now we obviously have to determine what to do next. So again, I'm just making up a random example. So let's say whenever this demo sheet is filled out, we want to send an email to that person confirming that we got their request. That's like an example. So The next step would be, in this case, to do an email module. So I can type email for you. As you can see, you have like an email one, which can work with any sort of email provider, and you have a specific Gmail one. So I use Gmail for my company, so I'm gonna select that one. And I'm gonna say, as an action, I'm gonna say send an email. So I'm gonna have to create a connection. I'm gonna call it demo connection. I'm gonna just sign in. This will open up in a new tab that you probably can't see. So now we're connected. We're gonna have to add a recipient. So who are we gonna send the email to? And I think it would be good if we add that in as a column in the Google Sheet. So let's go back to the Google Sheet. I'll add it in here to the right. Add in email. So now we have that as an extra field. I'm just going to hit save. So if you make some changes here, you usually have to refresh the fields. So let's see if it did that. Alright, so in this part I actually had to redo the first module because the columns didn't register. So sometimes with Make this is a little bit of a tricky process, but you can always just delete the module and then reselect the sheet, or select another sheet and then select the original one again to reset the columns. Alright, then we fill out email in this field, so that's who we're going to send to, and then the subject line, let's say information confirmed, just making something up. And then we say, hi, name. All right, so this is, for example, what we could say. Hi, name, thank you for contacting business. We appreciate your information, reach out within 24 hours. Let's also add, we will, and then we just confirm the phone number they shared. And then, we have all their information. And then we say, feel free to reply to this email if you have any additional information you want to share. Kind regards, company X. Well, that's some example. You could also add an attachment here, which I wouldn't really recommend because of the spam filters and stuff. You can say copy someone else in, so if you want always a copy of these emails to be sent to you, that could also be interesting. And yeah, that's kind of it. And maybe we want to say the from name, so let's call it business X, company X. And basically we're going to send an email from the top email to the whatever email we fill out, and then yeah, it's going to contain this information. So let's save this, and then like I said, this is a watch new rows. So this is actually supposed to be an instant trigger, but because I'm on the free plan or something. So this is actually not a real trigger, so you can only watch it like every 15 minutes. So I'll just put it on every 1 minute, just so that we can have a quick response. And now let's fill out the sheet, and then we're gonna see if it's gonna run. So we're gonna put it on, and then I'm just gonna fill out my name, my personal email that I will blur out, website, it's gonna be test.com, and then the phone number, which is gonna be something like this. All right, now that we all have that in place, the automation should run within the next minute or so and send out the email. So let's see what happens. All right, and as you can see, it just ran. So it watched the new rows and it detected our row. Let's see if it got it correctly. Yeah, so as you can see, name, email, which again I'll blur, website, phone number, it got everything correct. And then it went on to the Gmail module and it sent it out as well. And it says, hi Jan, thank you for contacting business X. We received your information and we reach out on the phone number we shared. And then feel free to reply to this, and then kind regards. So did everything 100% correctly. And yeah, so we've set up our first automation. So one extra common use case you can have is that you maybe want to watch all of the new rows, but you only want to email people if they, for example, filled out the website. If they didn't fill out the website, they're probably not serious, right? Again, making something up, probably not serious, so we don't want to email them. So in that case, you can set up a filter inside of Make between the two steps to check for a certain condition and only continue if that condition is true. So to do that, it's very simple. You just click on the little connecting thing in between, and you can give it a label, which will show up at the top, which I really recommend again doing, because this way, if someone else is looking at your automations, or you are looking at your automations a couple months down the line, you remember what you did and why you did it. So let's call it website filled out. And then we're going to set up the condition, which is going to be quite easy. You just click on what field the condition is for. So it's going to be the website column, and we're going to say that it exists. So we only want to continue if it exists. If it doesn't exist, we do not want to continue with this automation, because people are unwilling to share their website. We're not going to contact them. It's not worth our sales team's time, right? Like, again, making something up, but yeah, that's like an easy example. So we're just going to save that, and then I'm going to just fill out another example. So what I'll do is be lazy and copy this over, but then just not fill out the website. And then let's just wait and see what happens when it runs again. All right, and as you can see, it just ran again. So here in the history, we can easily see it ran again, and it popped up here as well. So if I just click on it, I can see kind of the logs and what happened. So as you can see, it triggered for the new row we made, which has the same information, but the website was just not filled out. And then here in the filter, as you can see, it evaluated the statement. So if the website is not empty, and it basically said it does not exist, right? So it's not true, and it didn't send out the email. So that's how you can set up a very easy filter. And obviously this is a super simple example again, but you can make this as complex as you want. And this way it's very easy to have multiple different conditions be true, and only then take a certain step. While saying that, actually the next step would be to, let's say we want to send them an email if the website is known, but if the website is not known, so with the lead we just had, we want to check if our sales team still thinks it's a worthwhile lead. So we want to actually send a Slack message to our sales team to manually check if you want to reach out to this person, or if it's a dummy email address or whatever. So we want to, if they fill out their website, we just want to send them an email right away. If not, we want to have our sales team check it manually. So to do this, it's actually quite easy. So what we would do is then add in the Slack module. Go to Slack. We would say create a message, and then we're not going to do this. So if we did it like this, what would happen is the filter would filter out the lead, and then this would not run, and this would also not run. So what we want to do instead is unlink this, make a little bit of a space, and then connect this right to the first module. And as you can see, this little router pops up, and this is actually one of the built-in features of Make, in which you can route the flow of information. So what will happen in this case if this triggers and there would be no filters here? It would first run this one, and then it would also run this one. So we go through all of the different branches here, and hit all of the different things you wanted to do. But in our case, we want to only hit this one if there was a website, and this one if there is not a website. So yeah, let's fill it out. So again, give it a label so you remember what you did. Condition, website does not exist. And then in the Slack module, let's just set something up. And then in this module as well, actually Slack specifically, you can also, give it like a username, and then, have different types of bots in your Slack going around. So I'll call this the sales bot. That gave us a lead, and then we can give it an emoji if we want as well. Let's just keep it simple, and as you can see, it will first evaluate this and then evaluate that, and run through these different automations because of the router that we now implemented. So yeah, let's test it again. I'm just gonna save, exit, go back to the demo sheet. I'm gonna copy this one, and we're just going to wait and see what happens now. So what it should do is just hit the Slack message and not do the email. And there we go. As you can see, it did it perfectly. So it evaluated the first condition as false, and it evaluated the second condition as true, which is good. So then it sent the Slack message into our Slack channel, and we basically got it done. Alright, so as you can see, this automation is now done, and I wanted to give you two examples, right? If you remember from the iPad, I wanted to give a trigger and one that is on a schedule. So apparently this one is actually on a schedule. So just to dive into the schedule settings a little bit, you can basically set it to run at regular intervals. So 1 minute is the lowest you can go, and 15 minutes is like the standard they recommend. So what you want to fill out here, it really depends obviously on your use case. If you want to respond really quickly to whenever someone fills something out in this Google Sheet, you might want to do 1 minute. If it's fine to just check 4 times an hour, obviously 15 minutes is cool as well. But let's say it's only something you want to do on Friday mornings, right? Well, in that case, you can set up like different types of other schedules. So you can do like once, so you can schedule it to only do it one time on one Friday morning. Or you could say days of the week, and then you say like Friday at, you know, a certain time. So let's say in the morning, right? It would be like at 9:17, whatever. And you would have that done, be okay. And then it will run each Friday at 9:17. Other options, days of the month, specific dates, or on demand. So it's really flexible, and you can really, you know, fill it out however you want. One thing to keep in mind though, that every time it triggers, so let's say you put it at 1 minute, that means you're using at least one operation every minute, because, you know, watching the new rows will trigger and will run one of your credits basically. So, you know, doing it once a minute, it can add up quite quickly. But then again, it can be worth it, right? Because if someone had to do it manually, it would be a lot more expensive. So yeah, just keep it in mind, and you know, keep an eye on your usage, and you can set it up the way you want to. So now onto one that's actually a real trigger. So I think for this one, what we'll do is use Airtable forms. So whenever someone fills out an Airtable form, we will do some sort of action. So I'll do, I think, an Airtable form, and then maybe we add in some AI as well, and just kind of see what we can do there. So going to the demo folder, I'm just going to create a new scenario, and I'm going to have the first step be Airtable. And as you can see, I can scroll through all of the different things I want to do. And I basically want to select watch responses, which is, as you can see, an instant sort of thing. So it's a trigger. So once I select that, as you can see, the scheduling settings, it changes from me being able to schedule it to just be immediately as the data arrives. So yeah, that just basically doesn't cost us any operation and still hits instantly. So let me just connect this, create a webhook. Alright, so for the instant trigger in Airtable, it's actually a little bit more complicated. So I read through the documentation for a little bit, and it seems like we need to add the webhook to the Airtable form to be able to receive the information. So just grabbing the iPad real quick and just have a very brief overview of what a webhook is. So a webhook, put really simply, is basically the ability to receive data. So what I would say is a webhook is basically like an open funnel, and then some application can basically dump information to your webhook, and it will, you know, instantly trigger like the next action. So it's a way to receive the data, and it's actually the opposite of another term you might have heard of. Like, it depends obviously how technical you are, like an API. So an API is basically the other way around. So webhook you can you know, receive, and with an API you can usually, you know, push and ask things. So yeah, that's basically really simply to put it. So in this case, when we're setting up a webhook for Airtable, it means that we're basically creating that little receiver station, so to say, that whenever, you know, Airtable sees someone submit the form, that they can, you know, just dump everything inside of our funnel, inside of our receiving point, and then we can, you know, instantly you know, pick up where they left off. So that's kind of how you want to think about it. Very simple explanation. I'm sure some developers will be watching this, be like, hey, you're so wrong. But I think this will make it easy enough to understand, right? All right, so let's set this up. So I'm going to go to Airtable, and let me just create a new base, and I'm just going to start from scratch. We'll keep it simple. I'm just going to go straight to forms and say create a new form. So as you can see, the table that automatically generated, it just has name, notes, and status, which is like super random, but let's keep it simple. We're just going to create a form for those fields, and then we're going to follow the instructions that we found inside of this. So basically what we want to do is we want to go through and see the final step, and then redirect to URL. We want to add in the webhook, so the receiver basically, or like where they can dump all of the information to. We want to put it there. I'm just going to go back here, copy that, go over here, and then let's see. So here on the right side, we can see redirect to URL, and then I have to upgrade to the team plan. All right. All right, so I quickly switched over to my agency's Airtable account, which we are on the paid plan. The other one was my demo account. And now we can you know, set it up. So we have to click here to redirect to URL. and then we can give the URL here. I'm just going to paste it in here, and as you can see now the make URL is there, and then we need to include record ID there as well. Let me just see how we should do that exactly. Question mark record ID is record ID, and then we're just going to hit save, and then we're just going to publish this form, and then I'll switch back to my other account, and then we can continue. Alright, so now we got the form and everything set up properly. We can go ahead and test it out. So let's first go back to the make automation, actually give it some sort of like next steps before we start testing. So yeah, when someone fills out this form, what do we want it to do? Well, obviously there's a million options. So yeah, I said we were going to do something with AI. So I'm just going to use the OpenAI module here then, and let's do create a completion. Then we're going to select the model. So again, with every different module you use, you have to set up the different settings to do whatever you want to do. So let's say GPT-4, and we're going to add in the prompt, which is going to be system. And we're just going to put in here summarize this information request. And we're going to add a message, and we're going to say user. So as you can see, this kind of mimics whenever you would use ChatGPT on your browser, where you can actually add in an extra thing, which is system, which is kind of the computer giving it instructions, and then user is you. So that's the way I usually do it. And then we add in the contents here. But as you can see, this one is still empty, because it doesn't know what contents to expect, right? Because it hasn't had any example data yet, so it basically has no clue. So it's good to just save it as is. Max tokens, we just put it at 0. So we're just gonna hit save, and then I'm gonna say run once. And then as you can see, nothing really will happen, because it will just be waiting for that first form response, and it doesn't know when it's gonna come. So it's now just waiting with that funnel we talked about. It's just waiting to receive data in, and waiting for that they call it a payload to arrive. So let's go to the Airtable and let's give it that. So we called this an information request. I'm just going to make up some information. I'm going to hit submit, and then it says form submitted successfully, and then it actually redirects us to that webhook, and it says accepted, which is good. I think this is actually a really ugly way of implementing a form. So if you're using a form and you want to get the information instantly to somewhere else, maybe not use Airtable forms, maybe use something like I just forgot the name there. Typeform is a really popular one, and you can get it beautifully designed and not have this be exposed to the user, which is just weird, to be honest. Anyway, you get it's all for the example, so you get it. So now, as you can see, it receives the information, and then it also sees the record ID as output, and then we can check here, and we have so as you can see, we only get the record ID back and not actually the record contents. So again, I think this is a bit of a bad way, to use forms here. But I think it's actually a good exercise for this first video, so you can kind of see how my thinking is when you're tinkering with this kind of software and you're trying to make it work. Because you're gonna experience the exact same thing, where it's you want it to work a certain way, and then there's some limitations and whatever. So you just want to kind of work through it and get it done anyway. So you have to watch response. So in this case, we have the record ID, meaning we know which record we want the data from. We just don't have the data. So I will unlink it here, and what I will do is I'll go to Airtable, and I would get a record, because I went a bit too quick there, but it says get a record, retrieve a single record by its ID, which is what we want to do. I'm just gonna align it here, and then I'm gonna select the right base, then the table 1, and then the record ID, and then awk. Alright, so just make sure, just rename it quickly to demo, and then record ID, and then that's it. So now again, we do not have the options yet, so let's run another test run, and then we'll see what happens. So let me pull up the form. And like I said, I don't think this is the best integration they have with Airtable, but again, it's an example. And if we go back, then you see that there's one record in the queue waiting to be processed. So if your automation is turned off, but the start is a trigger or a webhook. It will actually save them in the queue, which is a really nice feature. So if you have any errors or whatever, you will not lose all of the data and all of the to-dos, so to say. So yeah, let's just run it once, and then we can say, use existing data. And then it got the record, and as you can see, it now has all of the information we want. Then the prompt, so we just wanted to summarize the information request. So we're gonna do summarize this, and then we're gonna select from the get a record field, we're gonna just do the notes. I'm gonna click OK, hit save, and then maybe we wanna send that to ourselves in Slack. So we're gonna do Slack, and then we're gonna do create a message. Gonna enter a channel, select it from the list. Just do general channel. Mark with white check mark. So if you want to get this code, just go to Slack and then copy the emoji. Like, select the emoji you want and then copy it. You will get the right thing. When done, and then I'm just gonna do the result here, which will be the summary of the information request. Again, this is just something we're making up, and I can call this, for example, the lead bot, and I'll give it the emoji because whenever a lead comes in, we're about to make some money. So I'll give the emoji of a money bag. Let's get the right. So that's this one, money bag. Okay. Hit save, let's turn it on. Let's not process all data. All right, so I just asked ChatGPT to give us an example that that Make.com might receive, as our sales team, a question from someone. So this is written by ChatGPT. I just have some examples, and then the status field is kind of random. So I'll leave it open. I'll just click submit, and then we'll see what happens. So it submits the form, and then it gives the information. And as you can see, it's already running, so watch the responses, it got the information, it summarized it, and it sent a Slack message. I'll pull up the Slack message on the screen here, but as you can see, it's, hey, we got this request, a potential client, and then it's basically summarized it, and they're interested in further discussion, blah, 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 blah. Again, I'll put it up on the screen, but basically, it did the job perfectly. Remember that rant I was talking about at the beginning of the video? Well, I'll put it in here because I think it's really important to understand the value of learning this type of stuff. Even if it's not for your own business, it's a huge trend right now. So I'm just gonna insert the rant here, and yeah, if that's not for you, you can click off here. Make sure to like the video though, because if you made it this far, you probably got some value out of it. I'd really appreciate it, and subscribe as well if you wanna see more. And yeah, hope to see you all and hope it was valuable. But I've noticed in my videos, whenever I talk about automation, people don't really get as much what it is. They think about automation in terms of a Zapier, Zap, that is like a Stripe. Payment comes in, they get a Slack notification. Obviously that's all great, but that's not really the level of automation you want to go to. So yeah, I'm doing 15 videos in a row about Make.com. So if you want to see any sort of topic in particular, any sort of flow you want to see, make sure to comment down below, and also turn this into a playlist. So if you're watching this later, you can watch all the videos and see basically all of the things you need to understand to be able to become a pro at automating. And this is not just for your own business, by the way. You can use these skills as well to sell them to business owners, because there's a huge demand right now for AI automation. I'll put it up here somewhere. Yeah, since the boom of AI, people are looking more into automation, even if the flow doesn't contain any sort of AI element. Doesn't matter, it's hot right now, people want to do something with it. And you have to, right? Because if a business owner doesn't adapt, soon enough they'll be out of business. So there's a huge demand for that right now. So, if you don't own a business yet, if you don't operate a business at a big enough size, to be able to automate a lot of the stuff away, you can still watch these videos and learn the skills so you can apply it and sell it to other businesses and make really good money, because right now it's one of those skills that people don't have yet. And to me, it's one of those things that either you get replaced by automation, you're oh, they're gonna take all of our jobs, or you think ahead and you're hey, what's gonna be the next big opportunity? What is that automation gonna create in terms of new opportunities? And obviously, being the one that builds the automations, that implements automations to systems. So, You know, businesses can adapt, can take advantage of their margins. That's going to be the next big thing, right? So you want to tap in and, start with this series. So, all right, much appreciated if you made it this far. If you did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And check out the links in the description if you want more help. And if you have any suggestions for the next topic, make sure to comment as well, because I'm happy to cover anything that you guys want to see. And I'll see you all in the next one.